All right, everyone, welcome back. So, we continue on in our 2024 prospect previews with Ivan Demidov today. So, there's been a lot of talks of, the second to fifth overall picks changing. First overall is pretty consensus, but now we get into the picks that kind of could go either way. But I do really believe that Demidov, however you want to say it, will go at the second overall selection. So a little bit about Demidov here before I get into what I think he's going to be as a player and his overall draft rankings. He was born December 10th, 2006 in Sergeyev Posad, Russia. Probably said that wrong because I say a lot of the cities wrong, and you guys correct me in the comments. He is a right wing slash center, so we can play both those positions. And we see a lot of those guys get taken relatively early. Guys who can play multiple positions usually are more valued in the draft. So I could see Demidov going at the projected rate that he is. He's 5'11", 168 pounds. He is 180 centimeters or 76 kilograms, if you're following in Canadian numbers. I know that one thing that I realized is that not only Americans watch my videos and saying 168 pounds, not everyone measures in that because America has their own way of doing things. It's what I've learned. Thank you, school. You're good for something. But regardless, Demidov is valued as a awesome Russian forward, is one of the better ones we've seen in recent years. He has great skating ability, awesome shot, and is overall a great playmaker. In his draft rankings, they say that he was number 2 by Consolidated Ranking, number 2 by Elite Prospects, number 6 by Bob McKenzie. I got a feeling, though, that's not his last ranking. I think that's a previous ranking he made a while ago, because he's the only one out there that doesn't think Demidov's going to go 6th. I mean, there are people who speculate he's going to go 3rd, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but obviously we'll get into that. He's ranked number 2 by the Hockey News, number 2 by Smat Scouting, and number 2 by the Daily Faceoff. So the consensus there, besides Bob McKenzie, is number 2. Now, again, there's the arguments of 3rd overall. That's honestly if Chicago says we need a defenseman. That's the only thing that I see possibly happening, is if Chicago at that second overall pick says, yeah, we got Bedard, we got some other forward prospects, we want to level up on our defense, which would make sense, but regardless, I'm rolling with my pick here at number 2, and that's Demidov going to Chicago. So look at his stats here now before I get into some other notes I have. In 22-23 with SKA St. Petersburg in the MHL, not the KHL, the MHL. Now the MHL is the minor league of the Continental Hockey League in Russia. He played 41 games, had 19 goals, 43 assists for 62 points. Had a great year in the MHL. He won the MHL's MVP, so basically the Hart Trophy of that league. So he was the most valuable player. It showed that he can play in that minor league level against kids, but the issue that I do have with someone like Demidov is that he doesn't have a whole lot of experience against men. Like, in a lot of those leagues, it's usually junior players or, kids trying to make a name for themselves. But in the KHL, obviously, there's a lot older players, NHL ex-players. So that's the thing that I think is concerning. He hasn't gotten a lot of time up there, which could be because, obviously, he's on the same team as Matvei Michkov. There is those things with, obviously, getting enough ice time as a young kid. That's something that is a very big issue in the KHL. But in 23-24 in the MHL, again, he had 30 games. So he played 11 less games and had pretty much the same stat line. 23 goals, 37 assists for 60 points. So to have that pretty much exact same stat line, just 2 points less in 11 games shorter, I would say is very impressive and speaks volume for a guy that Demidov's going to be. He was an MHL champion, so he won the title in the MHL that year and was once again the most valuable player. So he's a guy that can play on both ends of the ice, has great offensive skill, a good enough defensive skill that I like his game a lot, and I think he's a player that is going to do some damage in the NHL. He has 7 points in 9 games played with the Russia U18. This was in 21-22 before the war and everything that went down, and they got banned from the IIHF. So he did play some international time, had 7 points in 9 games, which I'd say is very impressive, and it shows that a guy like Michkov, a guy like Demidov is going to be a pretty solid NHL level player. So some points here, some notes about his play. He's got great skating ability. He's compared to Jeff Skinner, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. Skinner's a good skater, but if you're comparing him to Jeff Skinner, maybe you might get overpaid. I'm kidding. But he's definitely a guy who skates very well, and Skinner is one of the better skaters in the NHL. He has good goal scoring. He has off-the-chart playmaking, as I've said. He's not a guy that can score consistently. Like, I think he's a good 30 goal scorer in the NHL, but he's not a guy that's, like, going to score 40, 50. He's more of a playmaker. He's a guy that I could see getting maybe 60, 70 assists a season, is a guy that I see making that level. Not entirely too sure if he will, but he's one of those players. He's not going to be scoring as much. He can elevate his teammates. That's the biggest thing. We talk about guys like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid. Those guys can elevate players. There aren't many other guys that can do that currently in the NHL. And if a guy like Demidov's one of them, his value is going to be very, very high. He can play on a high compete level as well. So he's very good. And the other thing is, too, which could be a negative if they want to get Demidov in the lineup right away, is that he has a 1-year KHL contract. So I think he's going to spend 24-25 in Russia and play a season over there before coming to the NHL. Now, obviously, the whole thing with contracts is up in the air when it comes to when you look at Russians and those deals, because obviously there's actually rumors of Michkov coming over. I didn't talk about that in a video, but the rumors are out there, and there's a good chance. So I'm not ruling Demidov just coming to the NHL right away and them terminating his deal. So we'll see if that happens, obviously. But, of course, with Demidov, he's a great player. Now, the one thing that I do have that I didn't have in my Celebrini preview is actually the draft preview here. I know I'm holding it very weirdly because I got a mic in my hand, but this has all the previews for like the top 80 players in the draft. So we're going to read a little bit here from Demidov. Due to circumstances beyond his own control, Matvei Michkov fell to the number 7th overall pick in 2023. Demidov should be able to avoid this same fate. His agent is arranging a live on-ice viewing of Demidov with NHL teams in Florida just before the draft, which will afford them the chance to interview him. So while he's not in Michkov's class, Demidov comes with less uncertainty. And there's no mistake, he's an intriguing talent of his own right. Demidov is a one-on-one threat above average hockey sense and skating. He's right there with any of the other guys in this draft. He has skill, hockey sense, and a dynamic point-producing ability. Demidov burst into the scene at 15 in the 2021 Helika Gretzky Cup, so scouts have had live viewings. He was a high-end offensive guy then, and from what I've seen on video, he's a high-end offensive guy now. So he's a player that, again, he has high offensive ability, and the thing is that I'm not doubting him because he's Russian. We saw with Michkov, he dropped last year because of the uncertainty with Russia, and there wasn't a whole lot of, transparency there. There wasn't anything saying that, yeah, he's going to be a guy who can come over right away. And obviously, there were a lot of teams in that draft that were looking to get better in the short term, not the long term. That's why he dropped to Philadelphia at 7. Demidov, though, was not like that. He's probably going to come over either this season or the following season, meaning 24-25 is when he'd probably come over at the earliest. So it's pretty clear that his agent's trying to do that to get his name out there and try not to make his value drop in the draft, which makes a lot of sense. That's why I have him going at number 2. I can't see a world where Demidov doesn't go number 2 in this draft. I know you're wondering, where is the Demidov video? I'm going to replace that with the Demidov reading. Or just the reading of players, because I think the video, it's copyright, and I had issues with that in my last video, so I'm not going to try that again. I know I've done it in previous years, but we're going to try it a different way this time. But again, to wrap it up, Demidov, a highly talented player. I am looking forward to seeing him in the upcoming draft class, and he could be a 4th for Chicago. And honestly, again, too, if he does decide to drop the 3rd, man, Anaheim has a really good forward core coming up. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out the Celebrini preview, it is uploaded on the channel. There's going to be more previews coming out soon. I got Levshunov, Lidstrom, and Aginla coming up in the next couple of days. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.